Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. Today we're going to review some of the user-generated cards. These are not real cards. These are cards that people have posted, typically from the Custom Hearthstone subreddit. I select most of mine from there or from the Top Cards of the Week post that ends up on the main Hearthstone subreddit, I suppose. So these are some really good ones I picked up from last 2 months or so, and it really highlights the genius of the community and how cool cards could become in Hearthstone. This is my top 10 list. First off, we have Sausages. 1 mana hunter card. Give a minion +1/+1 and all beasts attack it. I think this card was actually posted before the first teasers came out from Rastakhan, so the overkill mechanic didn't exist back then. But this card is even better now that we have the overkill mechanic. It's a card that could trigger overkill in a really big way. It's a very clever way to, spawn removal. And more importantly, one thing that Hearthstone still has above just about all other card games is the feeling that the cards present themselves. And this card just encompasses what it is so well. You throw sausages at something, it gives it a buff, I guess. And the beasts, they want some sausages too. It's just perfect, right? It costs 1 mana. It's just sausages. Not that expensive, right? Next up, we got Hallion Drake. It's a 5-cost 4/5 dragon with immune, and to start of your turn, silence this minion. So there's 2 aspects of this card that I really like. I find it very interesting to have cards that are just really sticky. I feel like they deny a lot of zoo decks. Just having guaranteed board presence is really strong, but the main reason why that's really strong is it lets you set up typically like a buff turn. But this card, it's going to get silenced, so you can't do it like play it and then buff it. You have to play and then have it silence itself, then you can actually play buffs on it. So it's a perfect 2-turn setup, and it's kind of an underrated skill today in Hearthstone with the multi-turn setup play. Yes, it exists in some of the combo decks, but not as frequent as I would like. Rogue has always been like the master of the 2 or 3 turn setup play, but in today's Rogue, you're playing odd Rogue. That is less true than it has been in the past. So bringing that multi-turn setup play, guaranteed sticky minions, it's just a wonderfully designed card. Third up, we have Dethrone. It's a 1-cost warrior card. Destroy a minion. When this spell leaves the history bar, resummon it. So it's like a brand new mechanic, right? It's whenever it leaves the history bar. It's a card that you'd play in fairly aggressive decks to try to punish control decks, because control decks, they don't play that many cards at the same time. Or you can consider the fact that, you might want to play this on your own minion, then you're playing warrior after all, use a board clear, and after a turn or 2, the minion that you dethroned comes back. So the flexibility, kind of like the double-sided card, is just so cool. Annihilate is a new mage card that someone created here. We got choose an enemy minion and cast random spells until it is destroyed. Yep. And this is any spells from all classes. They even specify all classes. So you could be, summoning animal companions. You could be drawing cards. You could be healing. As long as it takes to remove the target off of the board, it just keeps going on and on and on. And honestly, a card like this might actually be meta given the current spell pool. But I think on average, it's more of like a meme card with just a hilarious effect. And I am happy to have those in Hearthstone. Cards that are kind of below the typical power curve of competitive play, but have extremely cool effects while not being totally terrible, where you can just play these and have your fun as you may. Carillo Merchant is a pretty interesting card that interacts with Discover cards. So it's a 4-cost 3/6, which is a pretty good statted 4-drop. If you had just some Discover cards, you consider putting this in your deck. And you can't discover neutral cards. And this is pretty interesting. Yes, there are certainly some very powerful neutral cards, but on average, when cards are balanced in Hearthstone, they always give a priority to the power level of class cards, because otherwise, the classes wouldn't have their identity. So the way that Hearthstone actually works as a core is class cards are more powerful than neutral cards. Now, there's obviously some exceptions to this, but there's more cards that follow this rule. You know, you can see a lot of cards that are class cards that are just straight up better in every way than some neutral cards. And that's because that's how the game is designed. So the effect here is positive. It's actually largely positive in a way. And being able to have like mechanics that work off of existing mechanics is a really cool thing. You know, yes, you know, if we put this in today's meta, yeah, it's kind of a bit of a tricky one, but we've certainly had metas over the years where we had plenty of decks playing many Discover cards. Having a card like this introduced with the mechanic would be really cool. This is something I think Blizzard overall misses the mark on, and, you know, I can't really blame them for it because, you know, a decent portion of the time when Blizzard, you know, introduces a new mechanic to the game, it kind of falls off and just nobody plays it. So yeah, you know, this would then be a pretty underwhelming card, but maybe not because the stats are pretty good. But, you know, what I'm trying to say is, yeah, Blizzard might just, you know, not get too ambitious about the mechanics it introduces each expansion working out. But it would be pretty cool if they did, and we had more cards that worked off of the newly introduced mechanics when they come out, as this card exemplifies. Next up, we have Aiming Practice. It's a 4-cost hunter card. Change a minion's health to 1, then deal 1 damage to a random minion until you hit it. So again, it is basically guaranteed removal with some fun things attached. And I just love cards like these in terms of just removing something off of the board. 4 mana removal is pretty fair. You have better RNG options for 3. You have, you know, more efficient options using multiple cards for a hunter, but a 1 single card removal, very well executed card, very cool, very well themed, and clearly gets a spot in our top 10 today. Inferno Guard is a new Warlock card that someone designed here. It's a taunt with 4/8 in stats for 5. That's a very strong taunt minion. Typically, when you're looking at taunt minions, you want something that's health heavy, and you want to add up the attack and the health. As long as the attack isn't like 1 or 2, anything 3 or higher can typically kill a lot of things that's attacking it. So you want to add up those stats and divide it by 2 to get the mana cost. That's kind of like a fair card. So if you do that for this card, you get basically 6. So this card should cost 6 mana, but it costs 5, and it's very health heavy. So it's an extremely powerful card. The overkill is kind of a downside. So the overkill is deal 5 damage to your hero, which is pretty bad. Like if it was like, you know, a couple damage to your hero, perhaps, even just on attack, that could perhaps fuel some of the self-damaging synergies that Warlocks have right now. But 5 damage is kind of a lot, and it's relevant. I think it justifies the stats. It's exquisitely balanced, I would say, to a point where it would really work. It's not that good against very large minions because the attack is rather low. It's a health-heavy card, and against aggro decks, your opponents are typically going to win more cards that if you want to kill, you will have to overkill. You know, we're talking about like, you know, Direwolf Alpha, Flame Tongue Totems, you know, Knife Jugglers, you know, cards that are small but kind of perpetuate a win condition for the aggro player. If you want to actually kill one of those with your Inferno Guard, you have to pay the price, and that price is pretty steep when you're playing against an aggro deck. New Paladin card here, Purging Stratholme. Deal 3 damage to all minions and summon a 2/2 ghoul for your opponent for each minion that survives. It's so cool, guys. I know a lot of you guys maybe skipped out on the old Warcraft games, but Warcraft 3 had a mission with Arthas where you had to go around and basically, yes, purge Stratholme. I think it was kind of mimicked in some ways in World of Warcraft, so you might know a little bit about this, but the card is it's just so cool. It just feels so good. You bathe in the richness of World of Warcraft and Warcraft lore. Yes, That's right. You know, it just feels good to have a card like this in the game. I wish Blizzard would kind of go a little bit more over the top with the lore infusion for the cards that it creates. In terms of balance, it's just pretty good. You get a board clear and you get to, you know, kind of think about how you play it, because it's not just dealing 3 damage. You want to make sure you don't have too many things survive. If you do have too many things survive, maybe there's a way to take advantage of that. So, you know, lots of different things can be considered there. Netherwalker, 4-cost, 2/6 taunt, death rattle, retreat into the twisting nether, play the ladder to resummon this. So you can get this back after it dies if you play Twisting Nether. It's cards that work off of other cards. This has been kind of like the big thing in custom cards that I've seen lately, and I've kind of included it a few times here in this review, where I think this is in a very interesting direction that Hearthstone could head into. There are so many cards that are like good, but not like quite good enough to see consistent play. You can have cards that are new that synergize with those older cards to kind of bring them into light. You know, it's really cool to see some of the old cards see play once again, and even forcing that out, I think, would be great. And the last card today is Brigable Ogre. It's a 5-cost 7/7. Look at that. 1 mana more than it probably should for a shaman card, but still no slouch for the neutral. And attacking with this card costs 1 mana. So this is, again, a very interesting mechanic. You know, we always think of mana cost as, you know, actively playing cards, but, you know, maybe it shouldn't be that. Maybe there's more interesting ways to manipulate the mana system other than just playing cards, and this is one of the coolest and simplest ways that I've seen it introduced. For now, hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you want more custom cards, I got plenty of videos. This is 13th on the playlist, and I'm sure there'll be many more, or head over to the Custom Hearthstone subreddit. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.